It's John Lund Unleashed. Shout out to Lund loyalists watching on YouTube, those watching on X, Instagram, Facebook, and JohnLundUnleashed.com and the Lund Lunatics, listening to the podcast on Apple and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe and like John Lund Unleashed on YouTube and keep those alerts on so you don't miss anything. Now here's Johnny.
Yes, what's happening? What do we got? A little after 7:35. I said I'd be here at 7:35. It's 7:37. You know me. That's not too bad. Good evening, good evening, good evening. On Tuesday, September 17th, it is episode 241. We got a ton of stuff going on. Why the NFL is okay with Brady the double agent, or with double agent Brady, I guess is how I put it there. We got a ton of stuff going on tonight. We are extremely excited that you are here. As you can see on the chalkboard, and that's what we talk about. We stay with the chalkboard. So however you're watching tonight, maybe you're watching on John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. That is tremendous. Maybe you're watching on the Bay Area Sports Collective on YouTube. What I kindly ask you to do and humbly ask you to do is to subscribe on John Lund Unleashed. Hit that like button before you get out of here tonight, because we had a ton of NFL to go over. And if you'd keep those alerts on, because we had some stuff go out today and we'd love it if you would get those things as well. So again, 3 things that we ask. Please, John Lund Unleashed, come on over here if you're watching on another platform. And make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, John Lund Unleashed. Hit us with the like so that the algorithm likes us. And if you'd have those alerts on so we can bother you throughout the day, because you're not working anyway, that would be outstanding. However you're watching, maybe you're watching on X at John Lund Radio. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And please, by the way, I only ask you one more thing. Spread the word to all your friends and enemies. That would be outstanding. And if you're watching on another one of the platforms, go on over to the chat room. Say hello to everybody. And make sure you tell us you're a first-timer. That would be outstanding. I'd love to say hello to you. And by the way, before we do roll call and say good evening to everybody, if you want to get your thoughts, questions, comments, or thoughts, you can agree, you can disagree, whatever. This is a safe space for sports fans. Whatever it is you want to talk about, if you want to get your thoughts on the screen, 100%, all you have to do is hit us with a super or a sticker or something like that, and you're supporting the show at the same time, which is great. All right, NFL stories you can see at the top there with the chalkboard for 9/16/2025. Brady the Spy I'll get into tonight. 2 things why the NFL is okay with it and why teams don't care. And if they do care, then it's their problem. I'll explain that. The NFL's quarterback problem, which we got into a little bit last night. Do you want to see Wentz versus Browning? Because that's what you're going to see this weekend. I shall explain. Quarterback injuries to Burrow, Daniels, McCarthy. NFL 2 weeks in. Who's real and who's not? 49ers-wise, how do you find that balance between Brock's really good and Max? It says Mac God. No, he's a good number 2, not a God number 2. Number 2s in the league, they're actually ranked, and Mac wasn't there. I'll explain. And you know me, if you watch the show with any kind of consistency, I don't care about your list or your Mount Rushmore, let alone mine. But sometimes they're fun and they're interesting, but I don't care what Screamin' A says or Skip says or this guy's list or that guy's list. I don't care. It's their list. Great. Wonderful. We all have different perspectives. We are all born in different times. We all live in different parts of the country. We all had different things shoved down our throat. It's all a different perspective. We all think different things are important. Different players played in different eras with different rules. It's a fun debate, but at the end of the day, if you want reality, it's impossible to say who's best or whom's list or whatever. And I don't get pissed about lists, and I don't get pissed about Mount Rushmores, and I don't care who says what and who ranks who and power rankings and everything else, but they are fun to talk about sometimes, but I don't take them extremely seriously. So 49ers, we'll get into that. Cincinnati's season has been ruined. That's why we talk about quarterbacks as often as we do, because it's the toughest position in sports. Cincinnati right now, with one injury, their season is ruined. What if they called on Mac Jones? Because I don't know that there's a better backup out there right now. We'll get into that conversation, maybe outside of Kirk Cousins. And I don't know if Atlanta would let him go. The ramifications financially, all those kind of things. Kirk Cousins could go to Cincinnati and maybe save their season. I mean, I know he's a little bit older. He's a year away from, longer away from that Achilles injury. So we'll get into that as well. Bonus stuff. I don't know if you're in the Bay Area, why you're watching the Giants. If you are watching the Giants, I realize they got off to a 4-zip lead in the first, but it's a bigger picture thing. They do the same thing every single year. which is why I cut them from the show very early, because I like when people actually watch the show. So we'll talk about that. And I do have a sweet, clean, family-friendly Caboose pistol. And to be honest with you, it is an oldie, but a goodie, because I double-checked on it today, and I'm like, oh, it's a few years old, but you know what? It's still good. So that's what we got on the agenda today for 9/16/2025, episode 241. Let's get out to the chat line and say good evening to everybody. Baba Booey is here. Hey now. Very nice to see you, my friend. Christopher is great. Sports fan. Hello, Johnny. Here's Johnny. Hi, Joy. It is great to see you. Cam's dad. You're in South Carolina? Very nice, man. It is very cool. I love the dog right there. What kind of dog is that? Big dog fan. Very nice to see you. Cam's dad. Hello from South Carolina. Pine Needle is nice to see you. We're not, and again, let me straighten something out here. And I'm glad you asked this question, Cam's dad, because we go on tangents all the time and we get off on off ramps, and we'll go back to the chalkboard in just a second, but I'm glad you asked a very good question. Any odds on Purdy starting Sunday? People hit me up at John Lund Radio on X today and said, hey, with Mac Purdy playing so well on Sunday, does that mean that they're going to let, they're 2-0? You think they'll just give Purdy an extra week? Sports don't work like that. When players are healthy, when the starter's healthy, the starter plays. It doesn't matter if the team is 0-2, 2-0, 1-1, they're playing the Cardinals in the division. It doesn't mean anything like that. It doesn't matter if Mac Jones fell on his face. None of that stuff matters. If Brock Purdy is healthy, Brock Purdy plays. Brock Purdy's better than Mac Jones. Brock Purdy gives you a better chance to win than Mac Jones. I don't care how well Mac Jones played. And I love the way Mac Jones played, and we're going to continue our conversation. The stupid things that Colin Cowherd and other people said nationally who are so stupid and don't realize what they're even saying half the time, because they've got a big staff, unlike me. They have a big staff behind them, and they say this and say this and say this, and they have other producers saying, you take this side and you take that side. How do I know? Because I did it for years. All right, so they got these staffs, and they don't watch. I told you this last night. They don't watch all the games. They don't have the wherewithal to do it. They're not going to stay up all night long. So what do? They hit the treetops. What are the treetops? What do you mean by that, Lund? Joe Burrow's injury. Kansas City's 0-2. What's going on with the Cowboys? Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson. That was a great game between. They'll ride that and milk that right off the entire week. All right, and they'll get to a little bit of the 49ers. They'll mention a little Mac Jones, a little bit of Brock Purdy, but you know what? They hit the A-list items that the people nationally want to talk about constantly, and they don't watch full 49er games. And they watch Dak Prescott. They watch the Eagles. They talk about the tush push. They're worried about Tom Brady. Like, those are the things they're worried about. So when they make stupid comments about Mac Jones, or that Mac Jones could do everything that Brock Purdy's doing, they haven't watched an entire game. They haven't watched an entire 49ers game in 5 years. They don't even know what the hell they're talking about. They watch the NFC Championship game. They watched the last time a Colin Cowherd or somebody of that ilk watched a full 49ers game through was the Super Bowl against Kansas City in Vegas, February of 2024, right? That was the last time they watched the Niners game full. And so if you value their opinion at all, that's what I'm telling you. They watch Cowboys games through. They watch Eagles games through. They watch Chiefs games through. They don't watch Niners games through. That's the last time they probably did. And then they form an opinion on that because someone tells them something, or they watch a 30-minute quick recap of the game or whatever. They don't understand the flow of it. Anyway, I'm not going to get pissed about it again like I did last night. But my point is, and you asked a very good question, and let me get back to it. Any odds on Purdy playing Sunday? He'll play if he's healthy. And it has nothing to do with the way that Brock Purdy played against the Saints. And it doesn't matter that whatever it is, if he's healthy, they want him to play against the Cardinals. Hey, well done, Mac Jones. What's a backup quarterback supposed to do in this league? Win 2 or 3 games if he has to. They don't want a backup quarterback getting exposed and playing 16, 17 games. The backup quarterback, Jake Browning, the Bengals don't want him playing those games. Can he be a backup quarterback for 2 or 3 games, win a couple of games? That's what a backup quarterback is designed to do. The biggest drop-off in sports is from the number 1 to the number 2 quarterback. Because I'm going to show you a list here in a minute, and it's mind-boggling that they can only come up with about 10. In the entire population in the world, there's only about 10 really, really, really good quarterbacks. There's actually 4 really, really good ones. And then there's about 5 or 6 on any given Sunday that can play really, really well. So the reason I want to answer that question is if Brock's healthy, he's playing. If he's not healthy, he's not. It doesn't matter that they're 2-0. It doesn't matter that that Mac played well. It's nothing like that, because I'm getting these things. Well, Mac played really, really well. They could give him an extra week. Look, they're playing a division game against the Cardinals. It's really important. They need to get the win, and they're always trying to play their best players in every single sport. You don't get a rest. Well, God, we're 3-0, we're 4-0, we're 5-0, we're 6-0. We can afford to rest them. You can't. There's only 17 of these things, man, and you can't drop one. All of a sudden, Arizona beats you. You start having question marks. There's an under injury and another injury, and it's like, where did the season turn around? Yeah, when the Niners decided not to play Brock. How dumb does that sound when you say it out loud? They could have played Brock, but they didn't. What? What did they do? So I'm hearing that it's a less than 50-50 proposition, but it's not because of Mac Jones playing well. It's just that they don't think he's ready to play. If Mac Jones had fallen on his face and Brock Purdy wasn't ready to play, Mac Jones is still the quarterback. So I've got a lot of people hitting me up going, well, it's because Mac played so well. It had nothing to do with it. If Brock Purdy's healthy, Brock Purdy's the starter, period. End of discussion. Sports Fan is here. I already got some supers coming up, which I'll get to in just 1 second. It is great to see Anthony in the house tonight. What else? God, we got a lot of people in the room tonight. It is awesome to have everybody in the room tonight. What else do we have tonight for questions, comments, and thoughts before we get started on roll call? John Joseph is here tonight. Anyway, keep them coming. And again, if you want to get on the board 100%, just hit me up with a super like our good friend Fuji. Koozies, pints, coasters available. Yes, absolutely. 100% they are. And I owe you whatever you want. Again, Fuji, hit me either on the website, John, or hit me, john@johnlundradio.com, and you tell me what you want, and I'll have them on the way to you because I have them all for you. We got to have a Dodger pint of the pint. I'm down on the Giants, and I'll tell you why. I'll get with Krug, or what's tonight? Tuesday. I'll get with Krug, but I want to get you stuff. So you hit me up. You send me an email, tell me what you want, and they are yours. Promise. That is a promise from me to you, my friend. Thank you for the super. You can hit us up with a super anytime, just like our good friend Fuji, and we are off. All right. Again, we'll do more. Hi, Eric. That's our resident Seahawk fan, and we're not pissed at him about it. Seahawks are good. Seahawks manhandled the Steelers at the line, man. Manhandled the Steelers at the line. They're going to be a problem. We'll get into the NFC West a little bit later. All right, let me start with the big story that was all getting everybody's panties in a bunch today on ESPN, the NFL Network, everything right there. Peter Schrager, who has done a really nice job since he's moved over to ESPN, and he was really good on the NFL Network. And he's not one of those people that's going to fall into the trap of lists and screaming and yelling, and he just does what he does. He has great connections throughout the NFL. And he reported this story last night on the sidelines of the second game, obviously, between the Chargers and the Raiders. And the Raiders look terrible, and Brady's trying to turn around the Raiders. So there is Tom Brady right there in the booth, and he's got a set of headphones on, and it was reported by Peter Schrager that he talks to Chip Kelly a couple of 2-3 times a week. He's in the booth. He's very involved in the Raiders, and this is not a secret, everybody. There was an interview with Mark Davis last week who said that Tom is very involved. We know in the draft, Tom Brady's very involved. We know in personnel issues, Tom is very involved. Basically, Mark Davis says, I know what I don't know, and Tom is basically running the show. So they've got a general manager who's very competent there in Vegas, but Tom Brady is basically the right-hand man running the Raiders. So everybody's freaking out and screaming and yelling because last year, Tom Brady, as in his rookie year for Fox, and you know this, as the number one analyst, could not go into these production meetings. And if you're not familiar with these, let me just give you a quick once-over. Most people are, but let me just give you a quick once-over. They fly into the city late in the week. They talk to coaches, key players, normally the quarterback, and they get into these production meetings, and they kind of give them some hints on things to look for so that they're not taken aback and all those kind of things. And they give them some hints and some things they might try, and they give them insights. And normally, if you're not the owner of a team like Tom Brady is, a minority owner in the Raiders, there's no conflict of interest there because there's kind of an unwritten rule, almost like a lawyer. Nothing leaves this room, right? If you tell me something, there's unlike a lawyer where there's legalities there, you don't say anything. I mean, it's just what it is. You're not going to run to the other team and tell them what you've been told because you're going to do this with all the teams, and there's going to be years and all these kind of things. So you've kind of got an unwritten rule that there's just it's not going to go anywhere. And that's just what it is. And that's the way that it's been. Now, there's clearly a conflict of interest when Tom Brady now, who can go in these meetings and talk to people and they'll tell him certain things and he'll see, ask quarterbacks, he'll ask key players, he'll ask coaches, all these kind of things. And then he runs back to the Raiders. And at some point during the season, and this is where the conflict of interest hits, there's a number of games that Tom Brady will broadcast a certain team. So get that access to the facility of that team, talk to those key players, talk to those key coaches, talk to that quarterback. And then later in the season, he's talking to the offensive and defensive coaches of the Raiders. He's talking to Pete Carroll. He's giving him that same insight. And he's going back to those teams and saying, hey, I just spoke with that coach. I just spoke with that quarterback. I just spoke with that team. Here's what they told me. So here's what you should look out for. So people are up in arms and screaming and yelling. Now, let me give you two things. All right. And again, I love talking about the games. I don't love giving you this insight and all these kind of things, but here's the way it works. A, as you can see up on the chalkboard, Brady the spy. The two reasons why the NFL is okay with it. Number one, the NFL wants to succeed in Las Vegas. Believe you me when I say this. Vegas is has massively untapped potential. The NBA is going to go there someday, probably backed by LeBron James, but the NBA is going to be there. The baseball is already there. The NHL is already there. And the Raiders have not, and I'm putting this very mildly, the Raiders have not had success. And if Mark Davis can't deliver success very, very soon, then guess who's going to be the face of the franchise and probably going to gain more and more power within that organization? It's going to be Tom Brady. Do you think it's a coincidence that Tom Brady, who is one of the most hated figures in the history of the Raiders, is all of a sudden gaining more and more power within the organization? Who do you think is driving that? Let's use a little logic. That would be the National Football League. Because the National Football League likes Tom Brady. Because Tom Brady has a high rating within people. They like Tom Brady. They want the NFL to succeed in Las Vegas. There's a lot of money in Las Vegas, which means the NFL is very interested. Because what is the NFL always trying to do? They're trying to fill their pockets. They're trying to grow their revenue streams. There's a lot of revenue streams in Las Vegas. They want Tom Brady to be involved in the Raiders. They want less of Mark Davis. They want more of Tom Brady. Tom Brady is a good figurehead. Tom Brady knows football. So look, love it, hate it, whatever the case may be threatened by it or don't. They want the Raiders to succeed, and they want Tom Brady to be the one that does succeed. They don't want to necessarily kick Mark Davis out quite yet because they have a lot of respect for what Al Davis did and all these kind of things. But they did. They kicked him out in the desert. They didn't want him to be part of L.A., the ugly duckling that is Mark Davis. They didn't want that element of the Raiders, whether you want to believe it or not. They didn't want it in L.A., the second largest market in the country. So they kicked him out into the desert. And then as they've seen this thing happen, they're like, there's a lot of money here. Who can be the face of that franchise? Damn, it can be Tom Brady. And all of a sudden it's going like this. In the face of the franchise and the power of the franchise and the way the franchise is going to be run, it's more Tom Brady and it's less Mark Davis. And basically they're saying, hey, Mark, you can be a part of this thing, but you're not going to be the front of it. You're not going to be the face of it. We've got a person for that. And if you want to keep a hold of the team at all, this is going to be the guy that's going to do it. So number one, everybody's looking at this whole thing like, this isn't fair. This is all set up by the NFL, man. I'm sorry. There's conspiracy theories and it's the way that it works. And this is business. The NFL is a really cool thing that we all watch on Thursdays and Sundays and sometimes Fridays. And we love all this thing. But that's the sheep in the wolf's clothing. The wolf it's a massive business machine. And I'm sorry to have to bring this up because we just want to talk about the game, and I get it. But it's this gigantic business that is rolling and flowing and trying to grab revenue at every turn. And the reason why you never gets mad at Roger Goodell, but he's the one grabbing all this money, and the owners love the guy. So in Las Vegas, they want Tom to succeed, and they want Vegas to succeed. That's why they're allowing him in these meetings. That's why they're doing this whole thing. That's why they're not getting mad. All right, so this isn't going away. They're not taking power away from Tom Brady. They're not going to take access away from Tom Brady. Tom Brady is an asset for the NFL. So first of all these guys that are yelling and screaming at ESPN, all these talking head shows, quit being stupid and a bunch of jackasses, because Tom Brady is going to succeed, and he's going to help Vegas succeed, and the NFL and their owners and Roger Goodell and all this kind of stuff, they're all in bed together, and they're not taking power away from Tom Brady. They need and want the Raiders to succeed because there's a lot of money in the desert. So that's number one. Number two, as far as you're an NFL team, Tom Brady walks into your facility. You're going to play the Raiders in 2 or 3 weeks, right? Again, there's a number of games that he's broadcasting, so he gets to go into your facility, and then his team, the Raiders, are going to play that team at some point in the season. If you give Tom Brady, you're an organization, and you give Tom Brady any kind of information that he can use later to run back to the Raiders, any kind of nugget that is actual real information, that's on you. Then you're stupid. If you're a coach, if you're a quarterback, if you're a player, you know that he is an owner, a minority owner, but a big part of the organization with the Raiders. Why would you tell him anything? Okay, you can walk into our facility. You can watch our practices. Anybody can do that. We have access to tapes. You could call players. Or you call people. That's what Tom Brady did last year. They didn't give him access to the facilities, but Tom reaches out to people. He's got connections with everybody, and they talk to Tom Brady. He flashes the smile. He gets information. He doesn't have to be at the facility, but they've allowed him to go into the facility, and some people are freaking out and yelling. So you're the head coach of, I don't know, just throw any team out there. The Raiders are going to play the Chiefs at some point, right? The Raiders play they just played the Chargers. So Patrick Mahomes walks into a room where Tom Brady is sitting because Tom Brady's going to do a Chiefs game. You think that Patrick Mahomes is dumb enough to tell Tom Brady anything? Andy Reid's been doing this a long time. You think Andy Reid's going to tell Tom Brady anything? He walks into a Chiefs facility. You think that Andy Reid's going to tell him anything of substance? And on down the line. You think Chris Jones is going to tell him anything? If anybody tells him, knowing that he's a spy and he's on the other team at some point during the season, and he's going to be wearing a headset in a booth going against your team, but now he's a broadcaster coming into your facility, so he's kind of a double spy, but he's a double spy. He's not hiding it. He's got a Fox microphone. He's doing your game, and in 2 weeks, guess what? He's going to be against you, and anything you tell him, he will use against you. You know that. So why would you tell him anything? So everybody's up in arms. There's a conflict of interest. Sure there is, but you know he's got a knife in his back pocket and he's going to stab you in the back with it. So you don't tell him anything. How dumb is that? Have all these talking heads forgotten that? It's not like he's hiding the fact that he's broadcasting a game and, there he is up in the booth and he works with the Raiders. I mean, clearly it's not working so well. The Chargers aren't worried about it. Harbaugh's not worried about it. They smoke the Raiders. Everybody smokes the Raiders. Anyway, so there was a big story today. It got brought up. It's been brought up for a couple of different years. Doesn't seem to be helping the Raiders at all. And to me, it's a total non-story. If you tell Tom Brady anything at all while he comes into your facility and then later on you're going to play him in the season, then you're a dumbass. If you're a coach, a player, a quarterback, whatever the case may be, and you tell Tom Brady anything, that's a you problem, number one. And number two, if you think they're going to lessen his accessibility to anything, if you think they're going to slap them on the wrist, if you don't think they want the Raiders to succeed, if you don't think they want Brady to succeed, then you're high, man. You don't understand business. So that's number one. That's the whole Brady situation. He's going to sit in a booth. That's not illegal. He's going to get access to facilities throughout the year. They're making that easier for him. They want Brady to succeed as a broadcaster because who's paying him all that money? Fox. Who pays the NFL a lot of money? Fox. Who's running the Raiders right now? Who's the face of the Raiders right now? Tom Brady. They want the Raiders to succeed in the desert. All of it is about business, people. It's business, 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 and they want Brady to succeed in both areas. It ain't changing. So scream, yell, it's not fair. It's business. It's not supposed to be fair. What are you, 8 years old? Life's not fair. That's the first thing you tell your kid. When you have a kid and the first time he yells, that's not fair, you turn around to him as fast as your neck will spin around and you say, life ain't fair, son. Life ain't fair. And that's just the way it is, man. That's just the way it is. So anyway, I don't mean to go on a tangent, or maybe I do, but that was the big story today. And I was just laughing the whole time. Like, doesn't anybody understand business? Doesn't anybody understand how much the NFL wants to succeed in Vegas? They put Brady in Vegas. Fox is a major, major, major contributor to the NFL, and he's their number one broadcaster. They want him to succeed. This is business. This isn't about what's fair. Okay? This isn't an 8-year-old. They say life's not fair. Yeah, get used to it. That's the way it goes. So anyway, Brady the Spy, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, but it ain't changing. So that's the big story today. The other story is the NFL's big QB problem. Now, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and we'll get to the 49ers thing on this, but we're going to see a game this weekend that's going to be Wentz versus Browning. We're seeing the Vikings versus the Bengals, and we thought to ourselves, boy, this is going to be a cool game. J.J. McCarthy is going to take on Joe Burrow. No. We're not going to see that. It's going to be Wentz versus Browning, and we're seeing early in the season, Burrow. Cincinnati Bengals, if you're a Bengals fan, the season's already over. The toughest position in all of sports and the most irreplaceable position in all of sports, quarterback. And Joe Burrow goes down again, and now the Bengals season is basically down the drain. Washington was a team that I told you at the beginning of the season, I don't think they were going to be able to replicate what they did last year, but it certainly doesn't help if Jaden Daniels is down. And I told you this again, guy's thin, needs to gain weight, needs to gain muscle. He's getting hit. He's running around. Teams were going to look at him and they were going to say, okay, if Jaden Daniels is going to run around and beat us, and I've told you this because I've worked with defensive linemen, they're going to try to knock him out of the game. They're going to be physical with him. That's what they've done. J.J. McCarthy, you think Minnesota wants that decision of letting Sam Darnold go? He's got a high ankle sprain, and in the first 2 games, first 8 quarters that J.J. McCarthy's played in, he's played 7 bad ones. So he's not so great so far. And then you look at guys like Caleb Williams, who I thought was going to be just a can't-miss type of a quarterback. They're talking about Tyler Bagent, who got that contract in Chicago and was talking about taking care of his family, who didn't have running water, and you're rooting for this guy. And Caleb Williams is the total opposite. Played at Oklahoma, USC. I thought the guy was going to light the league on fire. I don't know if he doesn't work. I have no idea what the deal is. They went out. They got weapons around him. They got a ton of offensive linemen. They got an offensive mind like Ben Johnson. Still not working. They have a quarterback problem in this league. They don't know how to develop them. And now we see guys after a number of years, a Baker Mayfield, these kind of guys. We talked about it last night. It's the mental side of the game. Everybody falls in love with the physical side, right? How fast they run, how big they are, how big the arm is. When the reality is, we saw this from Mac Jones on Sunday. Not about any of those kind of things. I mean, you've got to have an adequate arm. You've got to have adequate athleticism. You've got to have all those things. But the main thing about a quarterback, and you look through the history of time, the greatest quarterbacks, Brady, Montana, Breeze, Manning, those kind of guys, they all had the mental capability in the game. And I got on this whole tangent about it last night about how Colin Cowherd said that playing quarterback for the 49ers was quarterback for dummies, you know? And I didn't want to go on a tangent about it last night or again tonight. But one of the things, I just want to bring this up really, really quickly. I only cut out 3 plays, but let me just show you one thing, all right? I'll just run one play, okay? I don't want to run all 3. But let me just give you one example, okay? So Mac Jones, this is a ball that goes to Ricky Pearsall. Ricky Pearsall is out. Let me just run it back. All right. Let me just show you one play, okay? Because this is what drives me crazy. So you've got for New Orleans, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 potential players on the line. Then you got 4 on the back. All right. Now Mac Jones knows this is you're not going to bring 7. So some of these guys are going to drop out. Some of the guys are going to come. He doesn't know exactly what's happening here. And he's got to read 1, 2, 3. He's got 3 receivers. He's got one that's going to be an outlet here. McCaffrey's on the inside here. So you got trips on this side, 1 single out this side, and you have 2 outlets and a tight end here and McCaffrey on the inside. These guys are going to be outlets. So just in case something down the field doesn't work. And he's got to get through 5 reads, okay, in 2.2 to 2.7 seconds. And these guys are all going to try to rip off his face. And he's got to decide within that time, too, who's coming, who's laying back, who's going to be open. And, oh, by the way, after he deciphers all those things in 2.2 to 2.7 seconds, he's got to then rip a ball down the field. And remember, Cowherd said he doesn't have enough arm strength or athleticism. All right, so let's run it right. Okay, now one guy drops back. Okay, so that guy isn't coming. He drops back into the middle of the field. Okay, so he's going to have an outlet here. He's going to have an outlet here. And then he's got a guy coming up this side, and he's got the trips going out. So he's got 2 receivers, 2 outlets, and here they come. All right. He's going to drop back to about the inside the 20. So he's at the 18-yard line at this point. All right. Outlet McCaffrey, outlet tight end. He's looking down the field. He's already looked this side. He's already looked on the far side to the right. You can see that's covered because he's got 2 Saints right there. All right. So now his options are dwindling. He could go to McCaffrey here, and he's got some space. Right to the inside here is Jennings. He's going to clear this out. That's not going to be open. So now he's thinking to himself, okay, I got 2 options here. I could dump it to McCaffrey, which is a pretty good one, or I could rip it to Pearsall right here. Ike Yadam, the former Niner, is the corner on that side. What's he going to do here? And remember, this whole time he's got to read the same things as these wide receivers. Now, it's easy because he's got the outlets, but he's got to read the three guys that are now eligible receivers down the field. He's got to read the exact same things that they're reading. Again, in less than 3 seconds while 300-pound men are trying to rip his face off. And he decides Pearsall is going to be the guy. So he lets it rip. Pearsall's here at the 45-yard line. The ball is going to be right around that hash mark, okay? And he's got to be on the same page as Ricky Pearsall, as this guy, by the way, is getting pressure in his face. He throws it, can't really follow through all the way because he got pressure on his face. So he's going to throw a ball from the 20-yard line to the 45-yard line. So it's a 25-yard throw that's got to be on a line after he just read 5 different receivers in less than 3 seconds. And look how good this throw is. And he hits Pearsall right on the 45 near that hash, only in a place that Pearsall could catch it because Yadam did a nice job making up ground that right there. He puts it down in a place where only Pearsall can catch it as pressure is right in his face. And you're telling me that there's something easy about that there's something quarterback for dummies about that's all Kyle Shanahan and that's not Mac Jones at all? And boom, Pearsall makes the catch on a perfect throw. Run it back. He hadn't even made the cut when Mac Jones decided to let that ball go. So inside, Jennings is running it. He's got a guy to the outside and the other side that could have been open, but he decides to rip it down the field, all right? So that's quarterback for dummies 101. Let me just throw one more at you. And again, these are just random. So it's a play that he's going to go. So Jennings is in motion here to the bottom of the screen. Pearsall is inside him. This corner on the outside is going to blitz. So you remember that 2 seconds I told you about, 2.2 to 2.7 seconds that you have? Let me run this for you. You're not going to have that because guess what? They're going to run a zone. So this end right here is going to drop back, and this slot corner is going to blitz. So he's got to read that right away, and he's got to hope that Pearsall reads the same thing he reads and cuts his route short so that he can beat that blitz. Ready? So watch this. So here comes the blitzer off the edge. McKivitz can't catch him because he's too fast. McKivitz thought that it was going to be the end who drops back. Taylor comes from the blitz, and now Mac Jones says, shit, I don't have 2.2 seconds. I have like 1.5. And you better hope that Ricky Pearsall sees the same thing, right? Now, where Mac Jones is right now, he's going to drop back to about the 35-yard line. Again, he's not an athlete and doesn't have a very strong arm, right, Colin Cowherd? And this is really easy. So he drops back, and he rips this ball right to the corner around the 20-yard line, drives back. So he's got this throw, by the way, is at the NFL Combine, they make you throw this throw all the time to see what kind of arm strength you have, okay? So watch. So watch this whole thing. So let's watch it from the backside. All right, so he's looking at this whole thing. You can't see the wide, but watch number 1 come in on the blitz. All right, so all of a sudden he's like, uh-oh, my time's cut in half. See 1 right here, and McKivitz can't get there out in time. See, he blows by McKivitz, and now he's like, damn. But he stays in the pocket, and he's going to throw a ball about 20 yards down the field and then about half from the far hash mark all the way to the sideline. So you got to have pretty good arm strength, even though they're saying Mac Jones doesn't have arm strength. And then he lays it right on. That's not bad coverage. Again, my point is, and I don't need to sit here because I'm not film guy. I'm not going to be film guy. That's not who I am. But it pisses me off because what happens here is people say Mac Jones doesn't have arm strength. Well, looked like pretty good arm strength there. He's not an athlete. Hung in the pocket, looked like an athlete there. Kyle's system is really easy. Well, okay, because they just ran a zone blitz in which the end drops back and the blitz comes from the slot corner. And instead of 2 seconds there, you have about 1.5 seconds, and you better hope that Ricky Pearsall's on the same page as you. And oh, by the way, when you decipher that in that time, about 1.5 seconds, then you've got to rip a throw that they make you throw at the combine all the time to see if you have adequate arm strength to play in the NFL. And those are just 2 throws that Mac Jones made during the day against New Orleans on Sunday. And people are questioning whether it's just Kyle's system or that it's easy to play in this league. And it's not easy to play in the league. So my point is, and then look at this. This is something that was really interesting that I saw today. Let me show you this. So people were ranking backup quarterbacks, and this is what I mean. It's so hard to find backup quarterbacks. There's about 10 in the league in terms of starters that are really, really good. And then when your quarterback drops out, and they didn't update this with Mac Jones in there. So Kirk Cousins, I get that. If I'm Cincinnati, I'm trying to call Kirk to Atlanta to try to get Kirk Cousins now. Browning was good enough, but again, if he's got to play all season long, his warts are going to be exposed. Jackson Dart, it's kind of a joke to put him third. He's never played an NFL game in his life. Mariota, we've seen it. I mean, he went 13 for 13 against the Niners a couple of years ago, but by and large, not very good. Tanner McKee hasn't played very much, the former Stanford Cardinal. Brissett, Gardner Minshew, we haven't seen the kid from New Orleans play at all. He's a rookie. Anthony Richardson's a joke. Andy Dalton, I'll give him that one. Carson Wentz, I don't know. He hasn't been the same since the knee injury. And Jameis Winston, okay, and whatever. And then they got Jimmy as honorable mention, which I think is kind of a joke. He started a Super Bowl, and they didn't even mention Mac Jones. And this was done. When was this done? I mean, this was done recently, right? That was done, today, September 16th, and they didn't even put Mac Jones on there, and Mac Jones at least has played in the league. So my point is it's the biggest drop-off of any position in all the sports. Is it not? I mean, look at this whole thing. The drop-off from Burrow to now, you're going to get a guy like Jake Browning in there. I mean, it's a completely different team. Cincinnati's got to run the ball and play defense now. They can't rely on Joe Burrow to make these plays. Even if you have a guy like Jamar Chase, even if you have a guy like T. Higgins, even if you have that kind of talent, they're just not the same kind of a team. So you have that big drop-off. So, look, I don't know how they're going to develop it, but there's got to be a way that the NFL, because I must have hit a button. There we go. We fixed it. And I am not hey, Bebop Jones. I am not a technical guy, but I believe that we fixed that on the fly. So anyway, as you look up at the chalkboard there, it's driving me crazy that Burrow is out and Daniels could be out and McCarthy is out. And all of a sudden we're looking at quarterbacks and we're going, Cincinnati season could be over. And I get it. You may not be a Bengals fan, but it's like, and there's just not enough of them to go around. And then, Mac Jones plays a game and half the people are saying, well, he could do what Brock Purdy's doing. And look, he played a great game and they played against New Orleans, which, maybe I downgrade him a little bit for that, but he was the 15th overall pick for a reason. He does have decent arm strength. You did see him, have a nice run in there. Look, Brady wasn't the most athletic. Montana, especially the mid to the end of the career, he wasn't the most athletic. In terms of, they're all good athletes. It's so stupid when a guy like me, some talking head like me, goes, well, he's not athletic. They're in the NFL. They're athletic. They're athletic. Don't get me wrong. These guys outside of kickers and punters, potentially, and even those guys are athletes. When talking heads sit in a chair like I am right now, sucking down beers and popcorn and pretzels and go, he's not athletic. Oh, really? He's not athletic? Okay. Just double checking to make sure that you don't think he's athletic. So anyway, that's the quarterback story. Sorry, I went on a long rant on that. I did tell you last night that I was going to get into this whole 2 weeks in, and I know it's ridiculously early. All right, ridiculously early. But here's what I want your thoughts on. So let me throw this out at you. From a 2-0 standpoint, I know it's really early. And from just a standing standpoint, like who's really, really good and who's really, really bad. Like, for example, the Bills, right? The Bills are real. We don't even have to debate it. The Patriots are probably middle of the road. The Jets are probably bad. They lost Fields to a concussion. Mike McDaniel's probably not going to make the season. I don't know what happened to him at the beginning. It was kind of a wonder boy when he came over from the 49ers, and he was running all sorts of great offenses. And it's really cute, and it works, and people buy into it. The kind of the weird bits he was doing. He kind of went Miami Vice and was slicking back his hair a little bit, and he was doing the sunglasses and kind of wearing the weird stuff. And he was kind of buying into the whole Miami look. And then after a while, he was being quirky behind the mic, and everybody kind of laughs when you're winning. And then when you're losing, it's not cute. It's just annoying, and people hate it. And he pretty much, people are at the end of the rope. People that cover Miami, fans in Miami, I bet Tyreek Hill is traded. They'll probably do a full rebuild there and look at a totally different personality at head coach than what Mike McDaniel is. Will he come back and be a guy, to work with Kyle Shanahan? I mean, right now, Clay Kubiak seems to be doing a nice job, but there are already rumors that Mike McDaniel could come back and work with Kyle. It's just not working in Miami. I mean, the fact that you look terrible in week 1 against the Colts, who might be something, and then in week 2, you come back and you play the way you did at home against New England, who's not very good, and you lose that game. I think so. We can play a game of who's really, really good and who's really, really bad. The Bills are really, really good. The Dolphins are really, really bad. Cincinnati's 2-0 without Burrow. They're going to be, I mean, they could go 8-9 or something like that, but they were off to that start. And so I think they're totally done. The Ravens do what they always do. They kind of remind me of the Niners. I know they're 1-1 because Buffalo came back on that big Sunday night, but the Ravens just do what they do. They're going to be there at the end. The Steelers, after that first week and the win over the Jets, and they scored all those points, I thought they were going to be something, but Seattle manhandled them on the lines. The Browns stink. I mean, the fact that they're playing Joe Flacco, which was a great story coming out of camp, but the reality is whether it's Dylan Gabriel, whether it's Shedeur Sanders, whatever the case may be, you need to be playing with those young players. You don't have a good enough team. Why are you playing Flacco? You're not winning any games. At least figure out who your quarterback is for the future. I mean, you took Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round. Play the guy. Stupid. Indianapolis Colts. I'll wait on Daniel Jones. Everybody's jumping on the Daniel Jones thing, and they're calling him Indiana Jones and making up all these nicknames. They got lucky last week. They had a missed field goal, and then Denver had a penalty against them. You can't use leverage, so they got another chance to field goal. They win the game. We'll see. The Danny Dimes thing is all back. We'll see. Jacksonville's Jacksonville. Again, DeMeco Ryans and, the Texans look like they were on a team on the rise. And in the first 2 games, I mean, you saw what Tampa Bay did at their place in Houston, and Baker Mayfield goes down the field and drops them to 0-2. Something's missing there. The Titans are going to be the Titans. It's going to take them a while to come back. As far as the Chargers are concerned, I think they're going to win the AFC West. Not that I'm burying the Chiefs so far, but Jim Harbaugh is so amazing. Whether you like him, whatever the case may be, like him, hate him, he's a burnout. There's no doubt. I covered the Niners during those years, and he's quirky. He's weird. He is socially awkward, but the players for a short period of time before he burns them out, because at the college level, he's perfect because these guys turn over every few years, and they, who's got it better than us and all that stuff. And after a while, and I've told you this story before, Patrick Willis told me, Joe Staley told me, after a while it gets old. They do the gas station T-shirts and all that. He does that whole bit. It works in college. It works in the pros for a short period of time. But what he does is he turns franchises around really, really quickly. So what are the Chargers? They run the ball. They smash you in the face. It's exactly what the Niners did. It's exactly what Michigan did. It's exactly what Stanford did. So the Chargers are legit. And they went from a team that couldn't win close games, and they didn't have character, and they didn't have toughness, to all of a sudden that's what the Chargers are. The Raiders are trying to turn it around. Geno Smith is not the answer. The Broncos, I thought, should be 2-0. They should have beat the Colts. We saw them in training camp and those joint practices. They have a really good defense. Bo Nix has regressed. And this is another thing about quarterbacks, before we anoint these guys, and this is the same thing I said in the offseason about Jaden Daniels, before we say Bo Nix is this, or C.J. Stroud is that, or Jaden Daniels is something, let's just give him a couple of years. The rookie year, that's great, man. Bo Nix played a lot of snaps. He went to Auburn, went to Oregon, played a ton of snaps, started a lot of games. Let's just see. When the league gets a look at him, let's just see. And right now, the early results are not great for him, but they're going to stay in games because of the Bronco, or because of their defense. As far as the Chiefs are concerned, I said this last night, their demise is greatly exaggerated. I get it. Travis Kelce is old, but they still have Mahomes. Their defense is going to come around, and it would not shock me, just mark my words on this one, if Tyreek Hill came back at some point. The Chiefs have too good of a front office. They know they have I'm going to call it a limited window with Mahomes, but he's got a long way to go. They're not going to waste years with Patrick Mahomes behind center. They're not going to just pack it in. So that's the AFC. Now, as far as the NFC is concerned, what you really care about, Philly's Philly. I mean, I don't care for 2 games in or 10 games in. Unless they have major injuries, Philly's got a ton of talent. I think the Commanders are going to take a step back. I think Dallas is going to stink. I think the Giants are going to stink. And then you go to the North, and I think the North and the West are going to be dogfights. The Packers right now might be the best team in football. Minnesota's going to regret the fact that they let Darnold go. The Lions got back on track. They're going to be fine. The Bears, there's always these expectations for the Bears. I mean, look, they've been outscored 79-45 in their first two games by the Packers and Lions. Those are two good teams to play. But Caleb Williams, for some reason, and I thought he was going to be great right out of the gate, he just doesn't get it. Just doesn't get it. As far as Tampa Bay is concerned, you always count them out and you kind of go, and then they just make the playoffs. They'll make the playoffs again. Loved what Penix did. I don't know if you saw Sunday night against the Vikings, but Michael Penix, and everybody was scratching their head like, you just signed Kirk Cousins. Why are you taking Penix? Well, we saw why. Penix is a hell of a thrower. If you saw him at Washington at all, kid is really good and legit. Saints are going to be one of the worst teams in football. The Panthers are going to be one of the worst teams in football. And then we get down to the West. And the Niners are the Niners. Got to get over the injuries. We know that. The Cardinals are always a weird team, but they're going to end up 8-9, 9-8, whatever they always are, 7-10. The Rams are going to rest on their season's going to rest on the health of Matthew Stafford, but they're going to be the Rams. And then Seattle, we're going to look back on that first game in Seattle as a really big win for the 49ers, because I don't know if you saw any of the Seahawks and Steelers. The Seahawks manhandled the Steelers on the front seven. And the Steelers, that's what they've been based about for years, is beating you in the trenches. Seattle kicked their ass in the trenches. I mean, absolutely manhandled them. And Seattle's got a top 10 defense. So they ran the ball. Ken Walker went over 100 yards. Darnold looked a lot better in game 2 versus game 1. Jackson Smith and Jigba is legit a top 10 receiver in this league. Seattle's going to be a problem. So it's going to come. I think Seattle, the Rams, and the Niners are all going to make the playoffs. And we'll see what Arizona's about this weekend. They barely hung on against New Orleans. They barely hung on against Carolina. So I'm not really afraid of what Arizona brings to the table, but they always are kind of a pain in the ass, right? I mean, they kind of just have that thing where you just play them. They're a division game, and they're kind of a pain in the ass. And Jonathan Gannon is, and Kyler Murray is, and James Connor runs really hard, and so they're just kind of a pain. So that's kind of my thoughts, just as a quick once-over on the league. Give me your thoughts of what you've seen so far, who you think is legit. If you want to stick to the NFC, because that's where the Niners are, I think Philly's really legit. I think Green Bay might be the best team in football. And you know what? Micah Parsons hasn't even really made an impact yet. I mean, he just isn't even used to playing with Green Bay yet. Jordan Love is off to a really nice start. They can run the ball. They have some injuries as well, but I think defensively they're playing really well. They're confident. So I think Philly and Green Bay are on one level, and I think there's another level down from that. You know, maybe the Lions or somebody like that, and then I think there's another level down from that, and that's where I think the Niners are. So give me your thoughts. Give me your thoughts on what you've seen so far. If you want to hit up some AFC, some NFC, and I do. I think the Seahawks, Rams, and Niners will all make the playoffs. I think they're really good. It's our good friend Skills, everybody. Philly's legit. Green Bay's up there. Surprisingly, I think the Lions will make noise. Yeah, I do too. The Bears aren't very good, and Goff threw the 5 touchdowns. And early, after that loss to Green Bay, and Green Bay's just a really good team, I thought to myself, well, God, they lost their offensive coordinator, they lost their defensive coordinator. That's really hard to come back from. We've seen it here. It takes a little while, and then they just crush. And again, like I said, the Bears, you're always thinking, oh, is this their year? And they got Ben Johnson and, second year of Caleb Williams, and look at all these guys they signed on defense, and they fixed their offensive line. They still suck. So, I've got to see Detroit do it, but they've got it. I mean, Jamison Williams got a deep one. Amon-Ra is still around. They've got the running backs. Their defense is the only thing that really you have a question mark, but they've still got all that talent that they've shown for a couple of years. It's just that I think people all of a sudden looked at Green Bay and they got Micah and, what Philly's done the last couple of years, and they kind of forgot about Detroit. But they're going to be a pain in the ass still. And like I said, I put Green Bay and Philly on one level. I think I put Detroit on the next level, and I put the Niners right after that. If I was looking at the NFC just 2 games in. But look, this is a big game this weekend. You come home, you're riding the high, you win the first 2 games on the road, and Arizona's just one of those kind of thorn in the side kind of teams that you should absolutely positively beat. But would it shock you if, again, you barely beat New Orleans 26-21? If Kyler Murray's in that same position and they're down 26-21 with 2 minutes on the clock, you're biting your nails. Spencer Rattler, give him credit, young kid, whatever. But if that's, Kyler Murray instead of Spencer Rattler, He can lead them down the field. I've seen it. I saw it during the pandemic when there was nobody in the damn stadium. He let him down the field. That was really weird. But anyway, there you go. So give me your thoughts on all that stuff as far as early, way early in the season. Yeah, I don't know what to make of the Rams 100%. To me, it's like I said, they got a lot of young talent on defense, still getting better and better. Adams and Puka Nacua are a major pain in the butt. Kyron Williams is really good. And I got a lot of respect, a lot more than most people as far as Matthew Stafford is concerned. But when you're 37 and you have back problems, you're just kind of holding your breath if you're a Rams fan, which there aren't any. But if you're a member of the Rams, I guess, or if you're Sean McVay, you're just kind of holding your breath because he goes down. It's our old friend, Jimmy G. Hello, Jimmy. So anyway, there you go. Let's see. Any other questions on that? And we'll hit some Niners stuff here. Let's see. Filthy Casual. Good to see you, my friend. Tommy, it's good to see you, my friend. Let's see. What else do we have here? Any other questions, comments, or thoughts on all this kind of stuff? People are trying to distract me, but I'm not, it doesn't have me. Doesn't affect me whatsoever. All right, let's hit a little bit of the 49ers. We brought this up a little bit. And again, I said in the opening when we did the chalkboard, it says Brock good under 49ers / Mac God number 2. It's good number 2. And we already went through because like I said, I'm not trying to be like, the breakdown of film guy. That's not what I'm trying to do. Oh, before I get to that, let me do this because this is Xavier McKinney, the safety for the Packers. And this is so hilarious because in fact, I have this right here. Your 2-0 teams. And what is it? Like 80% 2-0 teams make the playoffs. So Cardinals, Bengals, Bills, Green Bay, the Colts. That's not Raiders. That must have been before last night. Rams, Philly, Bucks, and the Niners right there. And so everybody gets excited. Oh, my 2-0 team, my 2-0 team, my 2-0 team. And then somebody asks Xavier McKinney about it, the safety for the Packers about it. And this is what Xavier McKinney said. This is pretty hilarious.
I'm going to say we're the best team in the NFL. I mean, it's just 2 games. We got a lot of football to play. And I think the biggest thing about being 2-0, like, to be honest, like you can't really get complacent and you can't feel like you won a Super Bowl. Because it's a lot of that start off 2-0 and later in the season, they don't be worth shit. So
I love that. That's just a great way to look at it. It's like you're 2-0, man. There's 17 games. I mean, 16 to 17 doesn't sound like a lot, but there's just so much time to make up time. And if you think like this weekend, this is a huge game for the 49ers. The Cardinals can be a pain in the ass sometimes. And it's like, if you're going to be complacent, I guarantee you that they've got enough talent, with Kyler Murray and the way Connor runs. And tomorrow night we'll hear, I got a friend of mine that's going to jump on the show a little bit. We'll talk some Cardinals. Marvin Harrison is much bigger. They're not as good as they need to be in the trenches to beat the 49ers. I don't believe, especially the way that the rookies are playing early, which we'll get into more tomorrow night. But they can beat, like I said, if it's 26-21 and Kyler Murray's got the ball with 2 minutes left, we're all going to need a cocktail because that's just the way it goes. We'll need a cocktail anyway. So anyway, we talked a lot about Brock and Mac, so let's get into that. We talked about the number 2 quarterbacks. Here was the interesting question. I got asked this today, this third question here under 49ers. Somebody hit me up on X today, at John Lund Radio. You can always follow me on X, questions, comments, and thoughts. You can hit me up. And they asked me if Cincinnati called on Mac Jones today because their season, Jake Browning's okay. He's a nice player. Went to the University of Washington, won a bunch of games there. I got nothing against Browning. He's won him some games there. He can win him a number of games. Joe Burrow's been hurt a ton there, and he's held his own. But I think Mac Jones, as the number 15 overall pick in the draft, what we saw last night, I think Bill Belichick ruined his confidence. I could tell you all the time. Most times with quarterbacks, it's not a physical issue that they can't figure out. It's the mental side of the game that they can't figure out. They played at a high level in high school. They played at a high level in college. If they didn't have the physical skills to do what they're doing, then they wouldn't have gotten picked where they got picked. At some point, somebody said they do have a strong enough arm. They do have enough athleticism. They do, all those kind of things. They checked all those boxes, or else they wouldn't have been picked in the first round. Because let me just let you in on a little bit of a secret. A lot of times why these guys do get picked where they get picked, because these general managers play a little old game called CYA, cover your ass. So they look at the check marks and they get, the owner, they have to answer to the owner, especially when they take a quarterback. And the owner comes down to him and goes, why didn't this player work out? And the guy says, the general manager says, who makes the decision says, look, it's not my fault. He's 6'4", he's 225, he's got a rocket arm, he runs a 4.5 40, and he goes through all the physical traits and abilities. Interviewed the guy, was great, which they can bullshit through an interview. We all can. We've all been on job interviews and done that. So he checks all the boxes, right? He goes through all these kind of things and he checks all the boxes. So he looks at Mac Jones and says he's got enough arm strength. He had 43 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He was second in the Heisman, won a national championship. Oh, but he's got a bad body. Yeah, but this. So he goes through all these kind of things and he checks the boxes. So there's a reason why he was picked where he was picked versus a guy like Jake Browning, who was Browning, a free agent or a late round pick, whatever he was out of Washington. And they start looking at it, and their owner goes to him and says, hey, man, if you have the ability to get – that's why, like, if Brock was ready to go, that's why – and a lot of people were hitting me up this week in the last couple of days on this. Like, if Brock's ready to go, I want to put Mac Jones on ice right now. And on that performance alone, put him up for auction. Did you see what Mac Jones did against New Orleans? He had 279 yards and 3 touchdowns. Who wants him? We're going to start the bidding at a second-round pick, Cincinnati, because your season's over. You want Mac Jones? Remember, he was a first-round pick, 15th overall, and the only reason that he really went downhill was because, man, Belichick just berated him. You know how Belichick can be on quarterbacks. He's a defensive guy, man. He never built him up. He can get things going again. I mean, you might be able to sell Mac Jones on that. So a bunch of people were hitting me up going, hey, man, if Cincinnati called, would you trade Mac Jones to Cincinnati? Well, obviously it would depend on how healthy Brock is, because if Brock ain't healthy, if Brock's not healthy, what are you going to do? Tanner Mordecai? I mean, Martinez, like when I was looking on the sidelines on Sunday and I kept seeing 4, I was having flashbacks of Moody. I'm like, what the hell's Jake Moody doing on the sidelines? Oh, yeah, that's that quarterback they signed. I mean, they're going to get another quarterback. They're going to be able to do this. We talked about this last night. They signed Mac Jones to a 2-year contract with this very thing in mind, that he plays a couple of games. He looks pretty good. And they're like, look, dude, you're not signing a 1-year deal like Darnold. We're going to sign you to a 2-year deal, and then we'll work with you, and we'll get you to a team, but we're going to get something in return. Like Kyle Shanahan's going to work with Mac Jones. He's going to restore his confidence. He's going to give him a couple of games. Teams who, because like I said, there's only like 10 of these guys who are competent in the league, maybe 15 tops. There's not enough quarterbacks to go around, let alone backup quarterbacks. He's going to get something for it. It's like, whoa, we're getting something for you now. Like we're going to rehab you both mentally and physically. Everybody runs a version of this offense. So you can play in this offense. Sam Darnold turned San Francisco to Minnesota. San Francisco 1 year, Minnesota 1 year, both running this same kind of offense. And then Clint Kubiak, not Clay, Clint Kubiak is running the offense in Seattle, the exact offense. So this is the 3rd year that Darnold has been in the exact same offense. He turns that into $35 million a year. Mac Jones is going, have me do that, because everybody's running the same offense. But now the Niners are going, wait a minute, man. We're not letting you out with 1 year. We're going to get something for you now. But if let's say, just for the sake of conversation, Brock is healthy, right? And this week Brock can play and Cincinnati calls you. All right, Brock could get hurt. You don't have a backup quarterback right now. I get that. But hey, Cincinnati, you want to give me a 3rd-round pick for a Mac Jones just based on that one performance? Okay, I'd do that, because that's why they signed him for 2 years. They're like, we're gonna rehab this guy. They studied him hard in 2021. Obviously, there were points, I can tell you this for a fact, that was their guy. And then they flipped over to Trey Lance. But at points during that draft process, and they were studying those guys, they were studying Fields. They knew they were going to get Trevor Lawrence. They knew that they were going to get Zach Wilson. They knew where the first 2 quarterbacks were going, but they were studying Lance. They were studying Fields. They were studying Jones. And they knew what kind of guy he was, but they weren't going to just do a 1-year deal and then let him run out the door if they rehabbed him. They weren't going to do that. So anyway, since he called on Mac and Brock Purdy was like, yeah, I'm good to go for the Cardinals, since he calls, you give me a 3rd-rounder, he's yours. I mean, can you imagine being able to turn that into a 3rd-rounder? That'd be amazing. So anyway, there's a Niners side of things. Give me your thoughts on that before. In fact, let me go over the chat room and see what's going on, because I'm gonna completely go away from the NFL here in just a second. Let's see here. A second pair of steel-toe boots for Brock. Brock ain't going anywhere. Got news for you. I know a bunch of people hit me up. Would you trade Brock? I am not trading Brock. If I'm the Niners, there's no friggin' way I'm trading Brock. Not trade him. Exactly. Filthy casual. You're 100% right. Look, it's a mental game. The position is a mental position, and everybody forgets that. Everybody. And I get it if fans would forget it. I would get it if, commentators forget it, or talking heads would forget it, or, the screaming and yelling shows during the day forget it. I can't believe how many times teams, scouts, GMs forget it every single year after year after year after year. It's like they're at a strip club and they're drunk out of their mind, just throwing money up in the air. It's like, no, but the guy, never mind. They just drafted Anthony Richardson. No. They just drafted Jamarcus Russell. No. They just it's like time and time again. They do it all the time. They can't resist. But he just threw it through a brick wall. Okay. Oh, but he was just on his knees and he just threw it through the uprights. Yeah, because that happens in NFL games all the time. Oh, Lord. Anyway, I digress. Man, I hope everybody's doing good tonight, man. What's going on what is it? I don't even know what time it is. 8:37 on it's like Tuesday. Oh my God, I got to write a national column tonight. I have no idea what I'm going to write about. Let's see what else is going on tonight. All right, I'm going to flip over to baseball for just a quick moment. I'd trade Brock Purdy for 72 first-round picks and Justin Jefferson. I don't think Minnesota's going to do that. They probably are calling Seattle, though. How about Seattle, by the way? First week of the season, everybody's like, oh, you got Darnold and you got rid of Geno and everything. And then 1 week later, Geno Smith was horrible last night. In fact, if we had power rankings for quarterbacks in week 2, Geno Smith was awful. Oh, my God, was he awful. Pete Carroll's just like, oh, my God, Jim Harbaugh beat me again. All right. No, I don't think the NFL is rigged, but what I'm saying is it's not on the up and up either. You know what I mean? I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'll admit it 100% of the time. But if we want to go back to the beginning of the show and what I was talking about, the Brady spy thing, I will tell you this. The NFL wants the Raiders to succeed in Las Vegas. And there's a reason why it's Brady's face. And there's a reason why Brady is all of a sudden it's Mark Davis here and Brady here. And I don't mean that just in a standpoint of look whose face they're showing. It's the power and who's in charge. And Mark even admitted it. I mean, look, that's just what they're doing. They can, Mark can have the fun and all these kind of things. But they want to succeed in Vegas. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of potential. There's a lot of things they can do. And they want Vegas to succeed. Bottom line. And who better to succeed in Vegas, Brady or Mark Davis? I mean, it's not even close. And if you're paying attention, you can see there's a shift of power that's going like this. And so all these people are going, it's not fair that Brady gets to do this and this and this, and he's sitting in a booth and it's like, pay attention, man. It's a business. And then everybody's screaming and yelling. These talking head shows screaming and yelling. But then he gets to go into a facility. Which coach is stupid enough to tell him something? Oh, yeah, we play Brady's team, the Raiders, in 3 weeks. Let me open up my books to Tom Brady and tell him all the plays we're going to run. If you do that, you're a dumbass. That's a you problem. So anyway, I don't think it's rigged, but I think there's certain things that happen. Because like I said, it's a business. Anybody who's in a marketing business, you could be marketing anything. Shoes, watches, beers, soda. It doesn't matter. It's brand X. You're a marketer. And that's what the NFL is. It's a business. And everybody loves it because the oblong ball and the things we talk about all week long. I was in a restaurant the other day having lunch. And I looked around me, and it was Fox talking all about football, and it was ESPN talking about football, and there's another channel talking about football, and it was Joe Burrow's injury, and it was the Monday night games coming up, and it's a massive, massive, massive industry. And they've got all these channels talking about it all the time, and it's worth billions and billions and billions and billions, and it just happens to be this thing that we love. And I'm sorry to make it be this blunt about it. We love it. We love it, love it, love it. It's soap opera, and we talk about it 24/7, 365. They've mastered the offseason, the OTAs, all the time. There's only a dead period of about 40 days between the last OTAs and when training camp starts. But those other days, 320 days a year, the NFL rules. It's awesome. They figured it out. And it's always on everybody's mind, especially now during the season, of course. They figured out the whole thing, but it's a business. And they want you buying stuff and doing on all these different things. Remember that commercial with, Matthew McConaughey and Jerry Rice? What are you eating, Jerry? Rice. It's a business all the time. All the time it's a business. And it just so happens that their business is this really cool thing that's football. but they're trying to make money at it. All these owners, everybody has this misconception that all these owners are trying to win. Jerry Jones isn't trying to win. He cares about the value of his team. He cares about being on the front pages. He cares about being on ESPN.com. Don't get me wrong. Jed York wants to win. There's a major handful of guys who want to win, but probably 75% of NFL owners would rather have their team increase and get more money put in their pocket. A lot of these guys, and I've said this before, and it's just a fact, because I've talked to owners and they've said this to me, it's one of 100 of their businesses. Now, is it a little bit more fun than, their flooring business or their construction business or their whatever the business that has made them billions and allowed them to buy that team? Yeah, but it's one of their 100 businesses. A lot of owners have told me that. Like, yeah, this is really cool and I get to sit in a box and all this kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, it's one of my businesses. And my goal in my businesses is to make money. And they would love to make money and win a championship, but they'd rather make money than win a championship. And we all sit here as fans and go, that can't be. Yeah, Jerry Jones would rather make money than win a championship. He makes all these dumb moves all the time. And you go, well, does he want to win a championship? Yeah. I mean, there's handfuls of the Dodgers. You hate them all you want. They just want to win championships. They'll make money along the way. The Giants, I'm not sure they want to win championships all the time. Joe Lacob, he wants to win a championship. But he knows that championships for him equal money, more playoff games, all these more revenues, all these different streams. They're kind of one and the same. So anyway, I don't need to go down that tangent. The NFL is rigged, and then I go off on a tangent. No, this is a great point right here. The Packers should be the ownership model for exactly. Then it's not one greedy guy, right? It's not one greedy guy. That's the whole thing, right? That's a great point. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, and I don't want to go off on this tangent, but that's what these owners are all about. They want to make money, and this big thing that we all love, it's the engine of it is just all making money, and that's all these guys care about. So the whole Brady thing, that's again to just go back to that from the start of the show tonight. The whole Brady thing is they want to succeed in Vegas. And so all these guys that are screaming and yelling today, these guys that have this big misconception about what's fair in life. What's fair? Is it fair that Brady walks into a facility, then broadcasts a game, and then plays that same team 2 weeks later? No, it's not fair. But teams should know that you don't tell Brady anything, number one. And two, the NFL, they know this. The NFL, they wanted to succeed in Vegas. And they don't want Mark Davis to be the face of it. They want Tom Brady to be the face of it. So if he's sitting in a with a headset on, listening to what the Raiders are doing, and then 2 weeks later talking to a coach that then he's going to play that team in 2 weeks, that's just the way it's going to be. And they ain't changing it. And whoever's screaming about it, it's like, don't you know how this works, man? Anyway, enough of that. I'm not going to talk about that anymore. I keep going back to it. All right. As far as the Giants are concerned, let me just I just want to pop something up about the Giants. Did they win tonight? By the way, they were up 4-0 in the first inning, but people were hitting me up and going, hey, you're talking a ton of football, talking Niners, you're talking NFL, you're talking all these things in your show. Why did you go away from the Giants? And I said, look, it is my job, whether I've done radio for 30 years or TV or when I write or anything like that. It's not, everybody does not deserve equal time. This is not politics, where if you put somebody on, then you got to put the opposition on. It doesn't work like that. I'm trying to, just like everybody else, my job is to get as many eyes, views, listens, clicks, whatever the case may be. And so to do that, what I have to do is decipher and decide every single day what I think people want to know the most about. And so let me just show you something here. In the last 10 years for the Giants, notice a trend. Winning percentage, 537. Winning percentage, okay, that's an outlier. But they're all close to 500, 451, 475, 483, outlier. So there's a really bad outlier and a really good one. 500, 498, 494, 500. So even if they win tonight, right, 76, 75. And what they did here in 2025, and I was telling people the whole time, they looked good, then they looked terrible, then they looked good, and then they're going to be just short. What do they do every single year? They're just short, right? Last year, 80 and 82. The year before that, 79 and 83. The year before that, 81 and 81. First, I was at the park when they lost that game. The Dodgers, right? And they lose in the first round. That the short season, right? One more game. Was it Austin Slater? They almost got in the playoffs. And then, they stunk. And then they were pretty decent. But you look here, 2 playoff in 10 years, 2 playoffs. And then a bunch of almost got in, almost. Like it's the same thing every single year. And so even when they made their run, and I hate to be pessimistic, but even when they made their run after they played so badly and they made their run at everything, and you're going, hey, maybe. And I thought to myself, this is what they do. This is what the Giants do every single year. They get close. They get almost there. And I'm not complaining about Buster. I mean, getting Rafael Devers was a stroke of genius. Willie Adames is, at the beginning of the season, was terrible, but he's a guy that, 30 home run shortstop. Who thought that he would ever do that? They've got some nice young players. Casey Schmidt in the second half of the season has really become a nice player. They finally bring up Bryce Eldridge, which I think they brought up too late. They had a bunch of major injuries around the deadline because they were playing so poorly. They broke up the best part of their team, but I was saying that they needed to do that. Rogers goes and Duvall goes and all that kind of stuff. They had a great bullpen at that point, but we all knew what was going to happen at the end. Even if they made a run at the end, we were looking at it and going, they're going to just fall just short, because that's what they do. So look, I'm not blaming Buster. I think Bob Melvin has underachieved in the first couple of years he has been with the Giants. I think he underachieved his last year with the Padres. I don't know why that happens, because he was always an overachiever with the A's. He had all this talent that you're just like, the sum of the parts is not equaling, but all of a sudden here are the A's, right? And now the last year of the Padres, didn't get everything out of the Padres, hasn't gotten everything out of the Giants. It's kind of been like that. They've underachieved. And so they made a run at the end, and I kind of, and I watched them, but then I went, what's going to happen here? They're just going to fall short like they do every single year. So why am I going to watch it again? I've seen this movie, and I've seen the sequel to the movie, and I saw, Giants do this, almost make the playoffs, part 3 and part 4 and part 5, and they're going to do it again. And look, the sky is not falling, and they've made some progress this year, and some young players have done some really good things. And Buster made the trade of the year in getting Rafael Devers, and people who said, at points when he struggled that it was a bad trade, it was like, how high are you right now? It's an amazing trade. Kyle Harrison just made his Red Sox debut the other day. They were messing with his mechanics for months in Boston or in the minors, because he was a 2-pitch pitcher, and they basically said, you're going to be a reliever unless we can figure some things out here and get you being back to one of the top left-handed pitching prospects in baseball. So they already traded James Tibbs to the Dodgers. So their return for Rafael Devers was not near what you could have got for Rafael Devers. So it's not a lost year, and I'm not down on the Giants. I'm just simply saying that when they started playing poorly, I've jumped ship. And then when they started playing well again, I thought they just dug themselves too deep of a hole to get out of it. And even with the Mets playing as poorly as they did, and then here's Arizona, and they've got another game against Arizona tomorrow, but here's Arizona, who at the deadline, clear sellers. I mean, they dump a bunch of guys off their roster, and then they're still in it. And with the Giants, even with the win tonight, they're 76-75. I'm sorry, that's not playoffs to me. Going into tonight's game at 75-75, I just can't get up for that kind of a game. I'm not jumping up and down. That's not a playoff team to me. So anyway, that's why I put bonus Giants. I love that they brought up Eldridge. There's a lot of positives that happened throughout the season. I'm not down on the organization. I give Buster Posey a B for what he did this year, maybe a B+ for bringing on Devers and the type of things he did. We know a lot more about this organization and these players than we did. You got to give him a really high grade for Willie Adames. I know a lot of the season Adames didn't play well, and he got off to a rocky start, both offensively and defensively, but he looks pretty good. And if Devers can be the DH for the season and next year, and if Eldridge is something, and Schmidt may have progressed, and even though he fought injuries, Chapman had a pretty nice year. And at the end of the year, even though momentum does not go from year to year, Bailey came and made some nice plays. But if the offense improves enough, then, and Bailey can hit, 230 or something like that, then they can carry that kind of a bat. He just can't be as bad as he was for the majority of the season. So there's things to build on for this team. You can rebuild the bullpen. That's the easiest thing to do from year to year. So I'm not down on this team. It's just that I didn't want to see that movie again and again and again and again and again after seeing it for, for the last 5 years or whatever it is. So anyway, Dom Smith, great call on that too. I know he's banged up right now, but that was cool, man. They grabbed him from the Yankees AAA team when they were going through all those. The only thing I would blame him is They just stayed with, I mean, the first base thing this year, to not get that worked out until finally Devers was able to play in the field long enough. I mean, Lamont Wade Jr. was like, seriously, you can't keep running that guy out there. I mean, that was just brutal. Just way, 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 way too long. Hung with him. Anyway, all right, there's that. All right, any more questions, comments, thoughts before I get to the sweet, clean, family-friendly Caboose pistol? Yeah, he had a great year. Give that guy a ton of credit, Skills. Ton of credit, right? Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, the Mets. My God, they were just terrible. Terrible. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Buster does in the offseason. I'm very excited to see what Buster here. I meant to hit this one, I think. Yeah, we'll see. I'm excited to see what Buster does in this offseason. So there you go. There's a little bit of Giants, get a little bonus Giants. Mostly we're hitting NFL these days and that kind of stuff. But let's do a little bit of sweet, clean, family-friendly Caboose pistol for you. One good thing to make you feel good before we get out of here.
John Lund Unleashed presents the Caboose pistol.
Wedged in the crack of her buttocks.
Somehow, someway, Lundo thinks this is the best way to leave a final impression on you for the day.
The old Caboose pistol, everybody has one.
Did you say Caboose?
I know some women who could hide a machine gun in there.
Yeah.
Leave me out of this, you weirdo. Here's John.
All right, so I didn't know this at the time, that this was kind of an oldie but a goodie, but then I looked it up and I thought, well, I've already looked up, might as well give it to everybody. So I see this today, and I don't know why some of these things come up even though they're old. So it says, man tries to trade kidnapped baby for 15 Big Macs at an Arkansas McDonald's. Now that picture right there, the guy's mugshot, does look like a guy that would trade a baby for 15 Big Macs. I don't know why you would settle on 15 Big Macs. Personally speaking, I'm not a Big Mac guy. I don't like those little onions that they put on the burgers at McDonald's. I know this sounds really, really weird. I don't mind like a grilled onion, like on a In-N-Out burger. I don't mind grilled onions on, say, you get like a sizzling platter of fajitas. I don't mind onions on there. I'm not a Big Mac guy. I don't mind the Big Mac sauce. It's fine. I don't like the bun in the middle. If I'm going to do like a double burger, just give me a bun and give me the double burger. But they got like the bun in the middle and the onions and the whole thing. I've just never been a Big Mac guy. I'll pound a quarter pounder or something like that. I don't mind the quarter pounder. But anyway, point is that the guy just says, 15 Big Macs. So I looked this thing up today, right? So let me just share this with you. And I don't know why this ended up on my feed today, but it did. And let's see, let's share this right here and right here. And so this ends up being a story from, 2021, I think this was. I don't even know if it says it, but it says a 3-month-old baby has been reunited with her parents after being kidnapped by a man in Riverfront Park in Little Rock, Arkansas. These always seem to be from the South. I'm not stereotyping anybody. There are not many details on how the man acquired the baby at the park. However, it's what he did with the baby after he kidnapped it. According to employees at a McDonald's, I love how they said this, a heavy-set man. Come on, man. You're not fooling anybody. A fat guy. A heavy-set man, 45-year-old Henry Osterman, entered the restaurant. Can you imagine this? You're in a McDonald's and you're just hanging out, right? Entered the restaurant on Monday around 10:30. The baby wrapped in a blanket. He seemed a bit nervous, you'd think. Told the employee at the cash register that he had the machines as he ordered 15 Big Macs, according to the report. When the cashier gave him his total, he handed over the baby to her. So he orders the Big Mac, and he thinks this is like barter system. Look, in this day and age, and this is a few years older, the story, but it's not a barter system, dude. It's 15 Big Macs. You give me cash. I give you Big Macs. You give me cash. It's not like, well, I have a baby. It's got to be worth 15 Big Macs, right? So anyway, he gives the cashier the baby, and he says, I look at him and said, what you think I'm going to do with that? Which again, I love the stories as much as anything. I looked for the video to this story because I would have loved to have heard what is written here. What you think I'm going to do with that? Said Chandra Wilkins, head cashier at the Little Rock McDonald's. He told me he didn't have any money, but I could take the baby. First of all, no, I don't want this baby. I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, let me just take this baby. I'm a cashier at McDonald's, okay? I don't want the baby. I can't afford the baby. But anyway, and then she says, fool, you need to back the F up. That's what he said. He threw the baby at me, ran behind the cash register, and grabbed every burger on the food warmer. That white man was crazy. And so, like I told you, I spent about a half hour on this looking for this story because I don't know if this was just, there's no way that this was said like this. But then again, look, This is Now 8 News. So this is legit. I mean, this is Now 8 News. This is in Little Rock, Arkansas. So anyway, police searched Osterman's 1972 cargo van that was parked in McDonald's parking lot, where they discovered another infant strapped into his car seat, approximately 6 months old. So apparently this is like what a guy does. So anyway, all's well that ends well. Apparently the kids are fine. Anyway, I've never heard that. But again, as you look at that picture right there, that looks like a guy that would try to trade a baby for 15 Big Macs. If I was going to draw a picture of a guy that was going to trade a baby for 15 Big Macs, it would look like a guy like that. He looks pretty messed up. So there you go. I know it's an old story. I don't know why it popped up on my feed today. It did. I double checked it, and not trying to stereotype people in Little Rock, Arkansas, but it doesn't surprise me that that story originated from Little Rock, Arkansas. There you go. 15 Big Macs. I mean, if you're going to trade a baby, it's got to be a lot more than that, doesn't it? I mean, isn't it a steakhouse? I mean, wouldn't it be a steak? I don't think anybody's on. Nobody's wanting the baby. I really wanted the news story so I could hear what if the cashier really said that, though. I don't know if the cashier really said that, but I was looking for that story. Anyway, there you go. That is the story. There you go. I love going to them. I have gone to a Valkyrie game. I have attended many Cal basketball games, by the way. Hi, Aussie Rules. It's good to see you. Let's see, Cal versus Duke or North Carolina. I would love to. First of all, I've been to Cameron Indoor. I have not been to a Carolina game at Carolina. I have been to a Duke game at Cameron Indoor, and it is amazing. And I would say that everybody should go to a game at Cameron Indoor. It's just that in the section I sat, you didn't have to stand up the whole time. So it was like, after a while, it was like, look, man, I get it. I wasn't a college student when I went there, but it was like, I get it, but I'm not standing the whole time. I mean, come on, man. But it was something that you go, you know, and I did it. And it was very, very cool. So yeah, I'm a big college basketball fan. Huge. Love it. Let's see, on a side. Hi, Tony. How's it going? I know the wild card's possible, but like I said, it's almost like, you know, you get burned in love too many times, and then you're like, I'm not doing that anymore. Like, that's how I feel about the Giants. I'm just like, they're not a playoff team. They're 76-75, and I just, you know, I think it's cool that they've done what they've done. I'm not angry with them. I'm not upset with them. I think Buster's had a good first year. I think that the Devers trade is a complete ripoff in their favor, and I think it's a great thing for them. I think they've learned a lot about some young players. I think that I would have brought up Bryce Eldridge a little bit earlier. I realized that they were hot, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more from him to make sure that he's the guy, because if he's not, then I'm giving Devers a first base glove, and he's working all season at playing first base. Now, if in the offseason Devers is my DH and Eldridge is good enough to play first, and I really feel good about Devers at first, and all of a sudden Devers is my first baseman, Eldridge is my first baseman, Devers is my DH, Schmidt is my second baseman, Willie Adames, who was amazing in the second half at short, Chapman at third, Ramos was up and down, but okay. I don't love Jung-Ho Lee anymore in center. I don't know what they're going to do long-term in right. So there's a few question marks, but remember at the beginning of the Giant season, we were like, if, there were a lot of ifs. And the one thing is, and I've said this a million times, so bear with me on it, they can build a staff. It's easy to build a relievers. They can do that. And in terms of their starting staff, I'm not going to go into a season. I was high on Birdsong early in the year. I'm not going to build a what-if staff. You know, Verlander is going to be gone. I know what is going to happen. You know, I know the top of my staff and what that's going to do as far as Webb and Ray, but I've got to get another guy, a top of the rotation guy, not an if guy. You know, so then I've got 3 solid starters. I talked about that all season long, and Verlander's not coming back. I need to kind of reestablish a top end guy, another, like a 4th guy. And then if there's a scramble for the 5th guy and it's Birdsong and, a number of guys down there, that's fine. But I got to have 3 solids, a really good one. And then if a few guys want to fight for that 5th one, whether that's Wiz and Hunt, whether that's Birdsong, that's fine. Or I move one of those guys and try to get, something, whatever the case may be. But they're not that far away, and I would be encouraged. And the fact that Buster's aggressive, that's the one thing you can say. Buster is aggressive. Goes out and get Devers. When's the last time the Giants did something like that? Like maybe never? As far as trades are concerned, aggressive trades are concerned. And it's been a long time. So I'd feel good about Buster if I was a Giants fan. Would it be nice to get in the playoffs? Yeah. but they're not a playoff team. So anyway, there you go. All right, I think that is it for tonight. Did a nice job for 9/16/2025. Brady the Spy. 2 things I told you about the NFL's quarterback problem we got into. Quarterback injuries. That's a bummer, especially for Cincinnati as far as the Niners are concerned. Brock and Mac, the number 2 quarterbacks in the league. If Cincy called about Brock, Giants, the same thing every year. And your sweet, clean, family-friendly Caboose pistol, apparently 1 baby equals 2 Big Macs. I don't like that mouth, by the way. There you go. Any questions, comments, or thoughts, hit me right underneath the show right here at John Lund Unleashed on YouTube or the Bay Area Sports Collective. That would be great. If you're watching tonight on X, thank you so much. Please give it a thought that you could come in and check out the chat room at John Lund Unleashed. That would be absolutely outstanding. And remember, around 7 o'clock every weeknight, we try to be here to talk NFL, some Niners, but we talk a ton of NFL as well. We talk tons of the big stories of the night. Always love to get your questions, comments, and thoughts. And again, underneath the show right here, if you missed the show, if you're watching it a little bit later, or X is a spot that I'm always at John Lund Radio. And all I ask is that before you get out here tonight, give us a like at John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. Get those alerts on, please. And if you're not subscribed, what the hell, bro? Hit us and make sure you're subscribed on John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. That'll do it for episode 241 for September 16th. 2025. Everybody have a wonderful Tuesday, and we'll talk to you tomorrow night.